but it's a peculiar thing when you are coming out of one of those adverse times. That also takes time to build up. So when you're going in, it'd be nice if you had the next one at home too, to kind of get a little bit more building on that confidence and that inner belief. So that'll be the big challenge going into a rivalry game at Minnesota. You know, they're having a really great year, especially with the loss of Mara Braun. Dawn and her staff, really, I think, you know, Dawn and I have been doing this a long time, and I'm really happy for her success. And that's hard to do without Mara Braun. Woodson's on the bench for them. So they're playing really, really well, and they're, you know, a lot like us. They kind of flirted with that top 25, and they're right on the cusp of that. So it's not going to be an easy game to kind of keep that belief system up. But if we can do that, I think that'll really be the tale of the last, you know, part of the season.
What stands out about Minnesota? What are the biggest challenges they're going to pose?
They're just really balanced. They're almost everybody's in, like, 3 of them average 10, the others are 8, pushing 9. Sophie Hart is a really, you know, just a solid, very productive post player. Her O boards, she's averaging about 4 O boards a game, and that's hard to do. That's great. So I think she's really solid. You know, a lot of these kids have come to our camp, so you know them pretty well, and you know, they're just really, really great players. Battle is when she gets rolling, she's as good as anybody in the league. Her pull-up's really smooth. She runs the team really well. Burkowski, she just nails threes. She was a teammate of Tegan Mulaney, and those guys on the circuit were like rain and threes, right? She actually committed with Dawn to West Virginia, so then she followed her to here. But just the balance, and so that's just such a different shift. We just got done with the team with Juju being mostly the center and Kiki, so now, and that's what's fun about the game plans. Just that, and anything happens in kind of a border war. So, you know, it's just, they run a motion with different sets, and, you know, they do a pretty good job, I think, trying to keep it out of the post, doubling every now and then. So we're going to have to be sharp.
They lead the Big Ten in fewest turnovers per game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what do you see their job security or ball
Yeah.
security wise that they do well?
We all like job security. You know, they're just, Amaya was one of the best players in Minnesota Battle, and she's really smart. She doesn't make too many unforced mistakes. She takes what's there, and all of them play that way. They play within themselves, and they know their stuff really well. So they're not out to really make a wow pizzazz play and try to test the odds. And I think that's why their turnovers are down. They're just really, really sound, and they got a really great player running them. So that's what what I've watched, I've just been impressed with. They just kind of do what they do, and they do it really efficiently.
Looking at their defense, I was kind of surprised to see they've played 6 games against the net top 50, and they've allowed 65 threes on defense in those games. When you see a number like that, you know, how do you kind of, you know, what do you take away from that? Is 6 games feels like a big enough sample size to say maybe that's an issue for them?
Yeah, well, I think, they're probably playing analytics. They played some, bets. They doubled, right? Sarah Williams from Wisconsin, they doubled. Both of them are, the key cogs to those wheels. So I feel like you just, I don't know if that's who they are, they have been the whole year, or that's who they are when they're playing these centers. So when you do that, it does cause a lot of rotations. And then you're letting up a 3, but sometimes that's the people you want to shoot it. You'd rather have, so-and-so shoot it than Lauren Betts. You'd rather have, they wanted anybody else on the Wisconsin roster to shoot it other than Sarah Williams. So I think that's why I wouldn't, to me, I don't know if I know that's an issue. I think it's a decision. And, for the most part, it's worked out, I think, to where they got previously, because I think that's probably what they've been doing against some of the other posts. I just didn't watch anything too much in the non-con.
You mentioned the conversation you had with Lucy in the third quarter. What did anything change about the way she carried herself? Maybe like
Well, I mean, I've kind of felt badly, like she did all that, but I just felt she was playing so tight. And I just know what she's capable of. I also know what it feels like to be a pleaser. Sometimes, you know, I've grown up like that too. So she wants to do so well for everybody. And so when you're trying to get the look, you're trying to run the play, and you're, you know, trying to make the read, that all of a sudden you're not your best. And then you can start to doubt. And I was just reminding her. And I don't even know if it was my reminder that helped or not. I'm just thrilled that she was able to, I think probably for the first time, really showcase what she's capable of doing. But now the trick for her too is to kind of harness that and to do that more consistently. But I just think, you know, she came here with a lot of, you know, different aspirations too. And we know the love of the fan base, but the weight of it, and you want to perform so well. So I was just really happy, and then her recognition this week in the conference and certainly nationally, it was just a really cool moment for her. So I'm hopeful that freedom, that's all I was trying to do, is just free her mind. And I'm not certain that I did anything, but I think it helped when she got one of those early ones to fall.
One thing Lisa talked about when it got to be February, she always talked about getting a double bye for the Big Ten tournament. You're kind of in position now where, you know, stack a few more wins, you can avoid playing on Wednesday,
right,
and, you know, get into that 8-9 game or something like that. Is that something?
Yeah,
in the
no,
back
I
of your
think
mind?
you know, my whole thing, you know, it's always been, you always want to be playing your best basketball in February. So the thing that I was most thrilled about, well, equally, I suppose, it was great to get the win on that particular day against that particular opponent. But I think we show that we've made some strides. Now, can we be consistent? And so if we're playing our best basketball in February, then that kind of, you know, takes us into that we can now look realistically at that goal, right? So, you know, earlier on, you know, I didn't talk a whole lot about that because I knew how tough the big would be. And then when we got into it, then it was like, woo. Then another focus was just trying to, you know, holding serve with, you know, confidence. But I do think that is realistic. But I'm also realistic with how tough the league is. There's just so many, you know, 50-50 games. You know, the Indiana's, to me, right? Indiana, the Nebraska, anyone at home, you know, Maryland. So those have, you know, they didn't go our way. And so now we're playing, you know, a few of those the next week here. But if we can get those to fall our way, then yeah, I would love that. And I think that's a goal that we've had all of our years working together, and certainly one that I'll continue. But you know, now also with the big the way it is, not everybody gets to go. So there's different tiers depending on, you know, who is spiraling or who is aspiring. But that would be definitely a great goal, and that's what we're shooting for.
Along those lines,
yeah,
you know, so much that's talked about in the college basketball world right now is in context of what does it mean for the NCAA tournament, or what does it mean for this and that. Your teams of the past few years didn't seem to struggle with that very much. Is that something that you ignore, bring up?
Yeah,
just
you know,
kind of how does that work?
It's you know, it's been a while, right? So I don't think there's a right or a wrong. I think that I've talked about it earlier when we were, you know, facing what we're, you know, the adversity part. But I think it's the way you deliver it. You know, it's kind of factual, right? It is, you know, when you're in the skid, it's like, okay, well, this is what we got to do to get out, but this is what we got to do, you know, long term. And so I mentioned it earlier, but my philosophy is the only thing that takes care of that is what we do today. And if you worry too much about what's going to happen at the end, then you really lose what you can accomplish today. So my philosophy is, you know, obviously I'm new and we haven't been on that fence for a while, but it's just acknowledge it. This is, you know, what happened to get us here. But if we just keep taking care of now, we can still hit where we'd like to be. And I think the interesting thing, and I wouldn't trust it one way or the other, if I was a mid-major or if I'm a power 4, you don't know what that committee is gonna think. Sometimes they lean way, you know, to like, oh, you know, the Power Fours, no, too many get in. We're gonna pay more attention here. Sometimes it's the other way, and it goes year to year. You have people complaining after the seeding, who gets left out, all the things. And this particular year with the expansion, I don't know what that committee is gonna favor. So it's a unique year to be on the bubble because it's all brand new.
USC mentioned a couple